Today is the 4th of July. These are some of the papers we have for you this morning. Let's begin with the Nigerian News Direct, talking about the Lagos floods. Residents, workers, commuters lament economic paralysis as Lagos State government calls for calm, promises swift response. Trash in flood water. Lagos government identifies, takes action against culprits. Area boys arrested for extorting 100 naira from pedestrians at makeshift bridge. All of this story you'll find on the inside pages of the paper this morning. Next is the Vanguard newspaper, which has a picture of the floods right there on its front page this morning. Floods in Lagos, the picture says. But the main story of the Vanguard newspaper is healthcare crisis, high cost of drugs to persist as local production flops. And look at the riders this morning. Only 29% of drugs consumed in Nigeria produced locally. 70% drug importation puts more pressure on forex. Importation responsible for high cost of drugs. Pharmaceutical sector unique, deserves special policies. PMG man. Delete import duty levy to ensure our survival. That's according to Adeosun. FG should introduce reforms utilized in petroleum sector. That's ascribed to ACPN. Find the details of that story on the inside pages of the paper this morning. Look at the front page of the Daily Independent, which also has pictures of the Lagos floods right there on its front page. Flooded Okpeleyeru Street at Koka-Aguda as a result of heavy rain on Wednesday, with vehicles submerged. For the lead story of Daily Independent, FG unveils model to realize planned $1 trillion economy by 2030. Details continue on the inside pages of the paper. The Blueprint newspaper, Nigeria has bought about 20 trillion naira fuel generators in 2023, according to the federal government. Find details of that story continue on the inside pages. The Daily Times has this one: release Nnamdi Kanu for peace to reign in Southeast. Senators beg Tinubu, say economy, social life in Southeast has suffered enough unrest due to continued incarceration of IPOB leader. Obasanjo denies discussing Kanu's release with Southeast governors. That's the lead story of the Daily Times newspaper this morning. The Daily Trust is drawing attention to LGBT. Nigeria signs $100 billion Samoa deal. What does that mean? Look at the front page. Look at the riders. Clerics, CSOs, furious. It's not about same-sex marriage, ministers aid. National Assembly didn't consider agreement, as according to Rep. Yusuf. Details you find on the inside pages. The Guardian newspaper, secular economy. Worries as e-waste import rises. More Nigerians resort to used items. Oh dear. Well, there's some infographic on the front page. More details you find on the inside pages of the Guardian newspaper this morning. New Telegraph, Akpabio blames Woza suicide attacks on security intelligence failure. Story you find on pages 2 and 5. Harps on preventive security. Senators stress use of modern war facilities. Return of suicide bombings worries can. Business Day newspaper leads with this one. Nigeria slams 7.5% VAT on $57 billion crypto market proceeds. What does all of that mean? You find the details on the front page continues on the inside pages of the paper this morning. Those are some of the papers we have for you today.
So we're going to start with the Daily Trust newspaper because this is one that a lot of people, there's two perspectives to this story. There's the part where the government is trying to explain what happened with this deal and what the clauses actually are. And then there's the fact that many people, especially clerics, are very upset about. And that is this $150 billion Samoa deal. More on that from page 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper. The clerics and CSOs, according to the story, are very furious. And the minister's aide is explained that it's not about same-sex marriage. And Representative Yusuf is saying the National Assembly didn't consider this agreement. Just so we can get a little bit about what was said there. Clerics and rights activists, civil society organizations are furious following the decision of the federal government to sign the controversial Samoa deal. And according to them, it has some clauses that compel underdeveloped and developing nations to support the agitations of the LGBT community as conditions for getting financial and other support from advanced societies. That's what the issue is. But they're saying that this was misinterpreted. We're hearing that from the minister's office. The budget minister said, well, speaking on what the budget minister said, his spokesperson at DBE says that the article is misleading. The article does not represent the content of the Samoa agreement signed by Nigeria, and that it supports universal access to sexual and reproductive health commodities and healthcare services, including family planning, information and education, and the integration of reproductive health into national strategies and programs. So they're saying it's a misunderstanding, but you can go make up your mind, get yourself a copy of the Daily Trust newspaper and get to page 4 so you can see that one and understand what exactly is going on there. I know that.
No, let's just remind everyone that on January 7, 2014, the same-sex marriage prohibition bill was signed into law by the then President Goodluck Jonathan. It criminalizes, it's not just an offense, it criminalizes public displays of affection between same-sex couples, and it restricts the work of organizations defending gay people and their rights. So let's put that out there. It is when that law, any attempt is made to decriminalize, then we can now carry on our own protests. But I'm also, something concerning, equally concerning, is on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. And this has been in the news consistently almost all week, about the cost of medical health, the cost of health care. The Vanguard newspaper tracks it as healthcare crisis, high cost of drugs to persist as local production flops. Definitely something concerning. As far back as during COVID, and I think maybe even sometime after, we had conversations with the DG of the NAFDAC, National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, that Nigeria is at a disadvantage in the area of local production of drugs. Now, this report on the front page of the Vanguard corroborates what she said years ago, that only 25% of drugs consumed in Nigeria are produced locally. In fact, she further went on to say then that the active agents of most of these medications are imported. Now, it also says 70% of drug importation is putting more pressure on Forex. You want to go, I got into a shop when I wanted to buy one of these paracetamol brands, and they were telling me 5-figure this thing, sir, Abba, for waiting more than 10,000 naira to buy paracetamol. What? You know, so I was scandalized. And this is not too long ago, maybe just a few months ago. And that is then. But even now, you can imagine that it's a lot more expensive now. I mean, you get into, everyone who knows anything is complaining. We've spoken with the former president of of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, PSN, and he said that even he himself went into a shop, a drug that he would get for something between 5,000 and 7,000, he was buying for 20-something thousand. And definitely, and that's for those who can afford it. How about those who cannot afford it? People have said jokingly that this is not a good time to fall sick because of course, the obvious. The NHS isn't even as, comforting as it ought to be. So this is a concern. I am happy that the federal government is looking in that direction one way or the other, but the cost of living is one. The cost of staying alive, the cost of healthcare, definitely something very concerning.
I mean, there's a recent story about it where there are waivers that the federal government is giving for pharmaceutical products. It's supposed to boost local production of pharmaceutical products and whatnot. But, I just want to give out some kind of public service announcement to people. If you work in an organization, try and find out what your HMO package is. Don't just say, oh, healthcare is bad. Oh, no one is. Find out. A lot of people work in this country. So if you work in an organization, find out what your HMO package is and find out if they work, and then blow the whistle if they don't. I have a beautiful testimony. I wasn't feeling too well not too long ago, and I had some money, but I wanted to know how my HMO works. And I was pleasantly surprised. I'm not just saying that because I'm on TV or because we're in Channels TV. It was wonderful. They were able to give me my medication. They were able to, get everything done for me. And I was taken care of immediately. And I remember going to meet the HR person here, and I was like, oh, it actually works. And I've been telling everyone, you don't have to, our own HMO works. So wherever you work, find out what the HMO package is. Find out if it works. If it doesn't, then blow the whistle because your salary has been taken for it, for that particular purpose.
Yeah.
Then when it comes to the cost of healthcare in the country, primary healthcare really needs all the help it can get. You can help as a Nigerian. What do? Go to the primary healthcare facility in your neighborhood. It's time for us to now start telling what's happening in our neighborhoods. Go to your area, find out what the primary healthcare center, where it is, find out if it works. If it doesn't, blow the whistle. Blow the whistle. Get other people to talk about it because we cannot keep pumping money into things that are not working. Money is being made available for them to work. So if they're not working, something is going on and we have to get to the bottom of it. So be a part of this. Let's make our country work.
Speaking in the same light, Dr. Wabua that we featured, he said, look, even this, and I'm glad that you talked about the HMO. I really am. Because he said that some of these HMO service providers, I think he even specified public health, that some of them do not service HMO package handlers well because of how their monies come and all of those things. Well, I don't know about it because HMO works for me. So if it doesn't work for you for one reason or the other, please do what Kayla said, because people who, there's that thing that, is it Chamberlain that says it? Eternal vigilance is the price of freedom.
Yes.
If it works, let's make it better. If it doesn't work, it's about time. Some people get paid for all of that. With that said, it's time for us to get into the nitty-gritty. Our first conversation this morning is to take a review of how far so far with the flood situation in Lagos and other parts. In the meantime, that's the much of the papers we can take this morning.